was the accounts department had managed to take control of sales. It was quite a vicious, almost battle that ended up with them. So the accounts department had decided about these orange or pink, depending who you talk to, S1s, and all these white basic glass. So I thought, right, we'll get rid of these people. So I had by then brought back Roger Putman, who was down at the boat company, who followed and later left Lotus and has been for many years sales director at Jaguar, which I'm very proud that my little prodigy has done so well. But I said to Roger and I had one or two codes where we were negotiating in the old days. If I did this, it meant wrap up, shut up. If I did this, it meant agree with everything I say. And we had a few more things. And Derek Bartram, who was heading up this attack on the sales department by the accounts, was walking past my desk, and I did like this to Roger, and I said, Roger, can you handle that barter deal? Anybody here an accountant? So they don't buy it. Oh, well, I'm sorry. Anyway, I said, Roger, remember that barter deal we did in the 60s? Did you up to doing it again? Oh, yes, said Roger. And I said, well, hang on a minute. Derek Bartram, the accountant, he must know. He's got an MBA and everything else. Surely he can do a barter deal. So of course, Bartram, of course, let's go to the London Barter Exchange. So he said, well, what's the deal? I said, well, you're doing 60 cars. Now, you would not fall for this one. For 6,000 litres of soft yogurt. And this guy also, that should be difficult. In those days, you could go to a fax machine and send yourself a fax, and it came back on the same colour ribbon as it went out. So you couldn't tell whether it was coming or going. So we immediately sent ourselves a fax from Interbart, London, saying this quantity of soft yogurt could harden the forward market. Then from the Dairy Trades Federation, please ensure that the butter fat content meets European common market standards. Now it was soon all around the company that Bartram had in fact fallen for a leg pull from sales department. Even all the directors knew it. They thought it was hilarious because he was making phone calls. And we went to a board meeting, and at that board meeting I had to give my solid prediction as to how many cars we would ship that month for cash flow and how many wages could we pay. And I said, shall we get 136 cars? And Bartram said, no, you've forgotten the barter deal. I'll croak to all of it. The other thing with barter was this. We had a thing called the CDC manual. Now that was a manual drawn up at Lotus, which told you what time you could go to the toilet, when you had coffee, when you had a day off, a week off, how many for this and the other. So I put this conspicuously in a glass dustbin on my desk. And then I thought, well, I think we ought to add to this. So I did CDC manual amendment page 906 of 26 or whatever, on the same sort of paper, put it all around the company, and it was headed panics. Please note that no employee is allowed to buy a panic. An employee can rent a panic, he can lease a panic, he can have a panic on approval, but on no account are you to commit the company for panics. We've got all that we need of our own. If your department has run out of panics, please just dial 269 and say panic. 269 was, of course, the chief accountant. The war between the accounts department and the sales department continued. The two areas where they really get annoyed is when you go to motor shows and have a good time. Well, one year we had, at the motor show, we had Colin, unfortunately, decided to arrive with a load of hangers-on of all sexes who drank champagne and did all sorts of things. And therefore the sales department's bill for that hotel went way over the budget. And the financial controller, Bob Webster, came to a board meeting. He was going to have us for tea. And I just passed him a note and I said, Bob, I hope you go ahead with that, because all the overrun is Mr. Chapman and his friends. And so he pulled off. Another time, we all got calculators and he put some figures to the board and I whispered to him, they're add up. But would say was, then of course they sent me down the boat companies. Colin was so bloody frustrated with the rules and regulations coming out of different governments, and every government had a finger in the pie. No homologation, no type approval in any one country could be rolled over to another. But even California had different rules, and you're trying to design a motor car for Christ's sake, and you can't start it. You can't start the design. You can't do it. And as soon as you finish it, they change the rules again. Whereas boats, you get a bit of water out there and a drawing board, you chuck something in, if it floats, it's a boat. And Colin's elegant solutions to luxury yacht design are still to this day revered in Italy, where some of the best motor yachts are. The way he remounted engines flexibly, the way he put a universal joint in the prop shaft, the way nothing ever passed through a bulkhead by just drilling a hole in it. You attached it to something, so therefore there were no noise paths. He eliminated vibration. He attacked weight and broke the circle of bigger engine needs more fuel, which needs a bigger engine to pull the fuel along. And we produced some of those wonderful boats, and we were about to produce one of our boats in volume for Chris Craft, where the pound to the dollar went absolutely up the wall. And Chris Craft came to us because of our vacuum-assisted resin injection technology, which we had totally tied up under patents. They come to us because our boat building quality was so good, our detail finish was so good. They come to us because they said they couldn't do it themselves for that sort of money. And then one day, Margaret and I were upstairs in our office at Kettering Hall, the building exploded. Unless you'd ever seen a Colin Chapman froth job, it was awesome. It also meant that if you were trying to negotiate with him, once he'd smashed the place up, you weren't so sure you wanted to ask any more difficult questions. And he came out into the corridor and he shouted and said, "You came to me because of our quality. You came to me because of the way we do the job, and now you want to put your man in my factory to make sure we achieve your quality? There's no way." And that was that. But he was also, I'll give you one more, then I'll dry up. This is an alleged situation. The allegation goes as follows. Do you know who Andy Granatelli is or was? Right, well, I met Andy Granatelli, and I said to Andy in the best Dale Carnegie, how did you come to be the top of such a big corporation as the STP Corporation? He looked at me and said, the last guy got shot. I then found out that STP, which is long chain polymer technology, is in chemical terms the same as putting sawdust in the back axle, because it's both cellulose. They use chopped up old ladies' knickers, and my grandfather would put cellulose in. But when sawdust has gone through a differential 2 or 3 times, it becomes a very highly compressed product, very similar to STP. But we ignore all that. It is alleged that Colin and Fred Bushall and Andrew Ferguson were sitting in an office negotiating with Andy Granatelli over sponsorship for STP at Indianapolis. And Colin is alleged to have passed a note to Fred saying, nobody's said what currency we're negotiating in. So Fred looked across at Colin and said, I think we're booked on the 4:30 flight, in case there were cameras looking down. So then when the deal was agreed at 0.8 million, Colin said, well, of course, when you're dealing with an English company, we have honour and integrity, and we shake hands and leave the bean counters and the legal men to dot the T's, cross the I's. So therefore, Andy, Colin Chapman, will be pleased to do this whole deal, race Indianapolis for you, at whatever figure it was I just said, at 8.9 million, and I bet you within the hour you're trying to renege on it. So then Fred says, okay, Colin, the time is 8.9 million pounds. Pounds? Who said pounds? Well, you're negotiating with an English company. You don't think we talk in dollars, do you? Here you are, you're trying to renege on it already. And just to finish, whatever Colin got into, he did it better. And he did it quicker. And I'll give you the last and final example. We were going to go public, we were going to make lots of money for ourselves, we all had our share options and whatever. We go to see the merchant bank for what we thought would be a champagne breakfast, and they're sitting there and saying, sorry, it's off. We cannot float your company because you, Mr. Arnold, have sold so many cars, and they're such lousy cars, that the contingent liability for warranty will wipe out next year's profits. So Colin said, so we sold too many cars, which is good, but because the quality is not good enough, we're going to have to pay all those warranties next year. Okay, I'll think about that, and we'll meet again tomorrow morning. Colin goes back into the meeting the next day and says, well, what is warranty? Warranty is the final end of development. Warranty is a failure in your development. So will you tell me why you could amortise our development over 5 years and you want to collect our warranty in 1? And the accountant said, I think you've just rewritten the rules. And the company floated. One last thought. I haven't mentioned motor racing, I'm not going to. But since Colin Chapman died in 1982, not one significant forward step has been taken in Grand Prix racing that doesn't involve either highly sophisticated materials or the use of masses of money in wind tunnels. The cars are just as Colin designed them, except all the best things he designed have been made illegal, which is what always happened to him. So at that point, I'm a Lotus man to my grave. I've got one more book to write. I'll get that done soon, and I'll send you a copy. But thank you very much indeed. I've enjoyed being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. And everyone, I want to thank you all for coming out for a tremendous event. The response has been really overwhelming. I hope you had a good time. I certainly did. Graham, thank you very much.
Any questions, if you want to stay on? Any questions on anything, please? Or if you want to get out of here, I understand.
Stay.
Thank you very much.